Good evening, everybody. You are very welcome this evening. Now, you may be able to tell that I am not the man in that poster that you've just seen. So that guy is Arveene, and I'm going to be meeting him in just a couple of minutes to have a chat with him about a podcast series that he's created that the London Irish Centre is very fortunate to be republishing. So Arveene will be joining us in a moment. First of all, I'd like to welcome you as a whole to this winter wellbeing season. So what that is it's a series of events and activities that is being run by the London Irish Centre in December and beyond to try and keep us all as well as we can be in our head, in our hearts, in our souls, as we trot along during these cold, dark months. Now, what we've been doing is loads of lovely events, and you can watch them. There's a whole host of them. So you're on now on Facebook, or you could be on YouTube on the London Irish Centre channel. So once you've finished watching this show tonight, and once you've listened to the lovely podcasts that I'll be telling you about, you can go back and look through the videos of the events this season. And we've also got some more events and activities coming up for the rest of the month that I will tell you about later. Tonight's show is live. And the reason that's great is that I would hope that you might like to join in. So if you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you want to say hello and let us know where you are, then just write us a little note in the comments box on Facebook or YouTube. But now, I would really love to bring in my fabulous guest, Arveene.
How's it going?
Hello.
How are you? You well?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm fairly good. Thank you.
Good. So some of you might recognize this person in front of me because last night, well, you may recognize him because he is a man about town. He is a music producer. He's a DJ. He's also a presenter of these podcasts and other things. But also last night on this very channel, Arveene hosted a show. And Arveene, do you want to tell us a little bit what that was like?
It was great. Well, we had 3 up-and-coming semi-established artists who are Irish or of Irish origin based in London, and we were just getting an insight into their lives as they've kind of dealt with and worked their way through the whole pandemic and the COVID situation since March. It was fascinating. Shouts to Aisling, Maurice and Luke. Brilliant. Absolutely inspiring to see that they're still going for music and creativity and pushing the boundaries.
It was lovely. And I also really liked, we got to hear a poem from Maurice and we got to hear a song each from Aisling and Luke. And if anyone who didn't see that fancies it, you can give that a watch. So go in your videos bit of the London Irish Centre Facebook channel or on YouTube. You know how to use YouTube, so that's all good. And so tonight we are continuing that theme of mental health, and that's all part of the winter wellbeing season. And how we are continuing it is we're talking about a series of podcasts that Arveene created a few years ago that we have had the luck for him and his co-creator, Bree Dunn, to allow us to republish 3 of them. But Arveene, can I start by asking you, first of all, so we're talking about mental health and Irish men in London, and I think it's fair to say that you are an Irish man in London.
Definitely.
That is a fact. Do you talk about mental health with your male friends and the male members of your family?
I do, yeah. I mean, it's a really important thing to check in with guys, and men don't like talking about mental health generally, or talking about stuff, and tend to shy away from it because they sometimes see it as a sign of weakness or makes them feel a bit inferior or insecure. But I definitely try and check in with my male peers, with all my peers, male, women, men, everyone, whatever you identify as. I'm checking in with you if you're my friend. But specifically, men struggle with opening up, so it's important to check in with them and see how they're doing and ask the questions. I don't have a problem probing.
That's good. I mean, that's
verbally, but obviously, but yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Well, that I would think that makes you a good friend.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a friend should be there for, to help you when you're down and give you a hand up.
And so would you mind telling me, so people maybe watching who don't know what this podcast series is of which we speak, so would you mind telling me about this series? Why did you want to make it in the first place?
I mean, I think some of the reasons I've just said really, in essence, is, but it was basically, a lot of Irish men can be quite isolated, especially some of the elderly ones, because they may not have massive families or they're away from home, or even young men who come over, or young people in general who come over to London. It's such a big, massive city. It's a mammoth of a place. It's the blue whale of cities in Europe, and it's very easy to get lost in the sauce over here, and people to just ignore you or not really engage you the way they would at home, because as Irish people, we're very engaging and we're very warm, naturally want to talk. Where in London, everyone's so busy, it's transient, and you can get a little bit like hit to the side when there's 4 million people traveling on the tube. Usually, obviously not right now because no one's traveling on the tube, but in general, it can be very isolating. So that's
True.
kind of one of the main factors, was to kind of open up and have conversations with people who normally, some people probably get to speak a lot, but most of them are just so busy they don't get to sit down and talk about how their experiences in their life. So giving people a voice, that was the main thing.
And I think, well, no one can argue that giving people a voice, especially when they have as fascinating stories as these men that you interviewed have, it's a very good thing. And so you made, I think, you made 11 episodes in total, and we have got 3 so far. So we've got 3 for everyone to enjoy listening to. And one of the things I like about those episodes is how you frame the discussion to include music and some really varied musical choices that influenced each of your podcast guests.
Yeah, I mean, there's music is such an important key and factor in life. For some people, it's the key to life. It's the one common denominator in the world that everyone speaks and understands. You can play a piece of music to people in different parts of the world and get a similar reaction. So there's something. Music is also an important part of memory. We associate time periods with certain types of music, and when you listen to something, it can bring you back to a place, a negative place, a positive place, a specific moment in time. It's like food as well. Food and music are very similar things.
And so that brings to mind one of your guests who we are showcasing, and that is a man called Phil McGahern. Now, Phil was he is a Cavan man.
Fantastic Cavan man.
Indeed. And
like myself.
He's a Cavan man.
Oh, there's a bit of Cavan in me. All right.
This is the thing I did not know, because it's hidden in your accent, or it's hidden out of your accent.
Yeah, it's back. It's back a bit further.
Okay, well, Phil McGahern is going to bring it back. So Phil McGahern was 65 when you interviewed him, because you made these podcasts about 3 years ago.
That's right.
So Phil has a great variety of musical choices. So he's let us listen to the Dubliners, to Elvis, to Stevie Wonder, to loads more. But what I really admired listening to Phil's podcast is how open he is about mental health, and about the fact that when he moved to London in 1970 and through the 80s, he's open about the fact that people weren't speaking about it. Men did not speak about what went on inside their heads. Do you think that's changed, Arveene?
I think it's definitely changed. I mean, even the essence of this whole month that the Irish Centre has put together, that's a hot topic right now. We're really checking in with people's mental health. And when you talk to Phil and you listen to the stories of them going to like the Gresham Rooms, one of the iconic London clubs of that period when he would have first arrived, you wouldn't mention, that there was something wrong with you, because they would have thought there was something literally wrong with you, and they would have distanced themselves from you because they didn't want to know. People didn't want to know your problems. Where now it's very much, I think, especially younger generations growing up, they're taught to express their emotion and talk about their problems more and air their views. And I think that's, it's definitely changed a lot.
And Phil was saying in his chat with you, he said, like, all in all, he said, I've enjoyed myself in London, and he's still here and he's still having a good time. But one of the stories which wasn't a good time at all was when he told us about, he was working in a pub, and there were a couple of policemen who used to come in and drink, and they used to come in maybe late hours for a few pints. And he didn't realize that they were watching him. And one time they came in and arrested him and his landlord, and they kept him in Paddington Green station for 4 days, interrogated him, and were not very nice. And then after 4 days, they said, oh, well, sorry, we've actually found the guy that we thought well, the guy that has committed the crime that we thought you had, you looked a bit like him, but yeah, it's not you. So sorry about that. And then they came into the pub after that and bought him a double brandy to say sorry. And
yeah,
with that story in itself, but also Phil was quite open about the psychological effect that had on him, and that he got a bit depressed, he got anxious, and when he would be going through customs after that, even though he had done nothing, he felt guilty. And so probably like a lot of other people, he used at the time drink as a coping mechanism. And that story just really struck me.
Yeah, I mean that's extremely common, I mean, being an Irish person growing up or moving to a country like this, that was part, or being black, or being just non-white or stereotypical in the eyes of the law over here is it's a tough battle, and even today it's still a tough battle. And people, when they deal with the trials and tribulations and the stresses of life, definitely turn to drugs, drink, stuff that's just takes the pain away, which isn't always the right thing. And I think now we're more aware of these things, we're able to talk about it, and to see Phil open up like that is extremely brave, and it's extremely inspiring. And that's like one of the core reasons why we spoke to him, is because he was willing to show that he can open up and talk about it, and that makes other people think.
Big time. And then you next talk to a guy called Steve Ryan. So as part of our 3 episodes, we've got 1 episode you chat to Phil, and then we have Steve Ryan. And Steve is a younger man. So Steve was 35 when you interviewed him. And so he's a Kilkenny man, and he came to London via Dublin and Berlin. And he's a really admirable guy as well, because God, that man has jobs. So he's co-founded the 40 Foot Brewery, which is in Dalston. Yeah. Then he's contributing editor of a magazine he also co-founded called Root and Bone, which is about exploring the food and drink culture in London, which sounds yum. And then both the magazine and the food is yum in London. And then he's also a portrait and food photographer. So that's a lot for one person to be.
He's a multi-talented guy. If you meet Steve, it's like he's thinking on his feet constantly. His brain is just turning over. He's fully creative and immersive in all the different arts, music, photography, style, food, all that stuff is just, he's a tour de force, that man. Great man.
I loved him. He was telling a story about as part of his musical choices, he played Supergrass, and he was telling a story of when he was upstairs in his studio and he was editing his photos, and then his friend said to him, you know Gaz Coombs is down there from Supergrass playing a gig in the car park. And it was literally 30 seconds, Steve was saying, from where he was. So he legs it down. And then now, today, his 40 Foot Brewery is in a shipping container in that very car park.
It is indeed. If you take a visit up to Dalston, you can go down there and see it. There's a lovely bakery there. They serve food, obviously, when they're, and there's a little outdoor culture. Obviously, not right now because everything's shut, but when it comes back, there's a lovely little culture. I've done some amazing parties for St. Patrick's Day down there. We had a couple of thousand people run through the yard. It was excellent.
Well, that sounds brilliant. And do you know what I discovered as well? I remember when Steve was mentioning that he'd given the brewery the name 40 Foot as a nod to Dublin and, this swimming spot. And then I was having a little look online, and do you know Loudon Wainwright III? So the father of Martha and Rufus Wainwright.
Right, okay. No, I don't.
Well, so he has written an article. It was 3 years ago, so it may have been about the time of your podcasts. And he's written an article, a keen swimmer, it turns out. And he's written an article in the New York Times about his top 10 favorite swimming spots in the world. And he mentions the 40 Foot first of all.
Wow, that's kind of mind-blowing because it's freezing.
Isn't it?
Yeah. The man likes cold.
The man likes cold.
Man likes cold. Fair play to him.
Fair play to him. And so that was really that. I mean, Steve was just sort of saying, at the time anyway, being 35, he said, he was talking about sort of the craziness of London, about the fact that he's 35 and he's still living in a shared house and he's working 7 days a week and he's running 3 businesses, but he does love the city. But I guess that's often the nature of the city, especially if you're freelance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're someone if you're someone who just likes the energy, because they say like that, Londoners, will go they're just working all the time, and they love their work, and they love being busy. So it's the minute they stop falling in love with London is usually when they're just kind of tired of working all the time, or they've kind of done enough work where they kind of feel like, right now it's time for me to kind of move on or just relax a little bit. And London just offers you everything. It's just nonstop. Some people aren't made for it. Some people will come and go, but most of the people that stay here just absolutely relish it.
True.
He's one of them.
He's one of them. He's definitely one of them, even though I haven't met him, but you can even see that. You can see it in the photos of him, the photos that he takes. You can see that. And then you also had your third episode is a man called Shane O'Donoghue, who is a touch older than Steve, not much. Shane,
the old man Shane.
Old man Shane. So Shane is he's a director in a comms agency, and they look after massive brands and digital agencies,
That's
people
right.
like Google. So he's also a father. And what was interesting about him, he's a tip man, so Tipperary, and I thought it was good the way he described himself as always having had an urban brain. Yeah. And he wanted, when he came to London, he wanted to find a place that was opposite to Tip. So there he goes off to Brixton, and he lives there for a few years, which I think it's fair to say they're not the same place.
They're not the same place. I mean, Tipperary to Brixton is quite the jump for a young man, but it says a lot about him that he just was willing to open himself up to explore lots of new identity, lots of different types of people, different foods, influences, music. Brixton was vibrant when he would have moved there. It's changed a lot now, but at the time it was just like on fire with all sorts of cultures clashing and blending in, and swapping stories and food and experiences.
Yeah, because he moved there in 2002, I think. So yeah, you'd be right. It'd be at a good old bit of its prime. And also what you say, Arveene, about Shane being really open to discovering things, that struck me. The way he approached music when he came to London, he was saying he only really discovered music properly in London. And he is someone that I would look at and say, okay, you know how to live a life, because he was really open to his friends' really diverse tastes in music. And so they used to go around, and somebody would pick a gig one week and it'd be hip hop, and somebody else would be something else completely different. And he just got a real good sense of the broader musical landscape by doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important, I think, to kind of open yourself up when you come here, because there's so much amazing music on offer, from Ronnie Scott's to Fabric. You can hear some of the best jazz you've heard in the world to some of the best jazz-inspired electronic house music in the world. It's all here. And people like Shane, his mate, Conor Harrington, and all his buddies were huge music fans, and they just, were sucking it all in, essentially. And yeah, that's the way you should do it when you come to a city like London. You have to experience everything. You have to look at everything, and it's a city that allows you to be open to everything as well at the same time, because there's so much culturally on offer from all different walks of life. It's great.
Well, yeah, and then he talks particularly, he's a great man for the live performance and for going to loads of gigs and getting so much from them. And then I loved when he was telling us he plays us an Aphex Twin track, which was playing on an 8-hour-long playlist, a random playlist, when his wife gave birth to their son. And then speaking about jazz and musical influences like you just were, Arveene, he only then goes and names his son Duke after Duke Ellington, which was nice.
And he had a second son called Earl.
He has
a second son called Earl. And I mean, I don't know if he's named it after Earl Gadsden. Is one of my favorite drummers of all time. Go check him out online. Earl Gadsden, absolute legend of a funk drummer. But I think he's named after another Earl from the jazz world too. So yeah.
That's very cool. And also that's great to hear that, because that's a little update from the podcast. So are you still in touch?
I am, yes. Yeah. I think he's having another kid. I don't know, he's not having another kid. If he does, he's probably going to have to name him something like O'Shaughnessy, or give him an Irish name. Some sort of wolf tone style name. I don't know. I'll have to think of something different.
Well, listen, these podcasts are great. And if you want to listen, and if anyone who's watching, I presume everyone who's watching wants to listen, otherwise you're all, I don't know what to say about you. But anyway, the place that you can find these is on Mixcloud, and it's on the London Irish Centre channel. If you look below us, look at those big words. You can see them there. And also it should be in the event description, even also below that on Facebook and YouTube, just underneath where the video name is. But mixcloud.com/London Irish Centre, you'll go straight to those 3 podcasts. And that's your evening sorted now, listening wise, trotting out. When you're going for your nice COVID-friendly walk in the park tomorrow or down the block of flats, wherever you go, stick that in your ears and you'll be happy. You'll be happier once you come back. So this has been, I've really enjoyed it. And we are Winter Wellbeing Ahoy. So it's not the end. There will be more Winter Wellbeing. So let me tell you about the things that are coming up. So Saturday, Olivia Armstrong is an amazing storyteller, and she's a regular friend of the London Irish Centre, and she is doing some beautiful stories for us once again, 11 o'clock this Saturday morning. And I'd love you to keep 11 o'clock in your head, because also on Monday and Tuesday, 11 a.m., Monday, we have Marie Dillon. Now, Marie Dillon is a trainer in mental health and resilience. And I think we all need a bit of resilience, And so she's going to be talking to us about the morning routine. So it's basically about how having a simple morning routine can set you up for the day and just make life feel a bit better. So that's Monday. And then Tuesday, 11 a.m., we have a chat with a psychologist. And that psychologist will be telling us about ways to keep us well. So that includes connecting with other people, like we're doing now. But then he's also got some tips for us for well-being when you're on your own, which is just really helpful. So that is that. So they're coming up. So tune in, London Irish Centre Facebook and YouTube channel. And it remains for me just to say thanks a million to Arveene. I'm very glad I have now met the man twice, 2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row. Let's make it a hat trick soon.
Yes. More programs. And so everyone, thank you so much for joining us, really. And also, I want to say a massive thank you to Phil McGahern, to Steve Ryan, to Shane O'Donoghue, because they have shared with us and shared with you, Arveene, specifically, the most wonderful and fascinating stories. And we are very grateful to them for doing that. And we're very grateful to you, Arveene, for letting us put these podcasts on the London Irish Centre Mixcloud. And everyone, I hope you have a lovely evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Get those podcasts in your ear, and good night.
Good night.
Scored the Premiership, got a Grand Slam in Twickenham. This community doesn't want an MBE, CBE, OBE or knighthood. We just want to live and love on this land with you. We just want to recognise that others the world over do too. As some build walls, we hope for bridges.
Can we take the long way home? 'Cause moments like this are hard to hold on to. And I know it's not easy on your own when the pieces don't fit. Well, that's all we've ever known. It's all